I do think this is something that will continue even when the pandemic is over. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Bri and welcome to my channel. So as you can tell, today I'm in a little bit of a different location. I decided to switch things up. So I'm in my living room instead of my bedroom today filming. And if you hear any noise in the background, that is my dryer drying my clothes. So ignore that. But as you can tell by the title of this video, this is another video for all of my fellow actors. And I'm going to be talking about what it is like auditioning during a global pandemic. So if you are tuning in way in the future, the time frame is February 2021, and it's been almost a year that we've been dealing with this coronavirus pandemic, social distancing, all that type of stuff. Theater does not exist anymore, basically. I do feel very lucky, however, that I am currently in Orlando, which out of every part of the world, I feel like is the most open and has the most opportunities to perform as compared to like New York, where everything is still like completely shut down and Broadway's completely shut down and just everything's kind of on a standstill. So I do feel very lucky that I even have the ability to make this type of a video because I have been doing auditions throughout the majority of this entire pandemic. I really haven't stopped for any like long period of time. But I'm going to be talking about the 3 types of auditions I have experienced during the pandemic, rating them pros and cons, what I think about them, which ones I prefer, and where I kind of think the theater industry is going as far as some of these methods, and if we're going to be using them even after the pandemic is finally over. So without further ado, let's get started. So the 3 types of auditions I'm going to be talking about, which I've done all 3 of these. You have your in-person auditions with masks, of course. Then you have your video submissions. And then you also have virtual auditions, usually on Zoom is what they're usually using. But so first I'm going to talk about the live in-person auditions with masks. I would probably say this is my preferred method of auditioning. I mean, of course I'd love to audition live without masks, but I've always just loved auditioning live and in person because I think as much as your talent is very important and what you're singing or monologue you're doing, whatever, is very important, I also like that general interaction with the casting directors and the creative team, just giving to have your simple little introduction when you walk in the room, have a little conversation, whatever it may be, just so they can see your personality. So I definitely really miss that, getting to do that without masks, because with a mask it's just a lot harder to like have a conversation and like really get to know someone with only seeing like half of their face. So basically the auditions I've done that have been live and with masks have gone well overall. I haven't done any ones that involve singing, so I can't really talk about what that's like, singing with a mask at an audition. But I've done a couple actor auditions where I've been doing monologues and sides and dancing and stuff like that live. And overall, like, I really didn't mind it that much. Again, it is really hard to, I feel like, make that connection with the casting directors. And also when you're performing and like trying to make your different acting choices and beats, it's kind of hard to not see your mouth or like see a good portion of your face. So you really got to use every ounce of your body that you can use to kind of show that to the casting directors so they can see the choices they want to see and hopefully cast you from there. They've also like dealt with rehearsals and performing in masks, and that's just hard because it does get very hot and it's not the most like comfortable thing to be dancing or moving around in masks, but you gotta do what you gotta do. But I would say it is really nice to get a sense of like normalcy almost, to be able to like be in a room with a bunch of other people. Obviously the rooms are a lot bigger because they're trying to be able to space people out, so instead of a small holding room, they're using probably a big like auditorium, or they're using audition time slots, so you're only coming at your specific slot and you're gonna stay in your car anytime before that or until they're ready, things like that, which is fine. I mean, a lot of like doctors' offices also use that type of process nowadays where you're not waiting in a waiting room, and it is kind of nice if you're so you're not just like around a bunch of people like super close to you. I do like the idea of like, even if we have to be spaced out, I still can have that social interaction with people I'm auditioning with and make friends and connections and have a sense of normalcy coming back. So that is the in-person auditions with masks, which is my preferred method of auditioning right now, at least. The second type of audition method is by video submission. So this has done a lot, especially when the pandemic first hit. That's what like everyone resorted to, is just doing video submissions, which I do think this is something that will continue even when the pandemic is over. Obviously, video submissions were a thing before the pandemic, but I think they were more of a resort of, if you couldn't make it to an audition, asking if you could send in a video submission, and hopefully the casting team would say yes. And now I think it's going to be a much more standard practice in general. So the video submissions, you could either use that for the entire audition in general, or some casting teams use that as kind of like a first step to make a first cut. So you'll film your audition at home, if you're singing using like an accompaniment track, which creates its own set of difficulties because not every song you can find an accompanist track or a good accompanist track. Overall, I've done a lot of those pre-pandemic, so it wasn't like the biggest like learning curve to have to do that, and I have equipment like the ring light I'm filming on right now and my camera, so I know I can create really great quality at home. Some of the things I don't like about the video submissions, this is also kind of the reason why I like just performing it live, doing live auditions, is that when you have the ability to send in a video submission, you can kind of make it as perfect as you want and do as many takes as you want, which sounds great, but it also means everyone can make it as perfect as they want and do as many takes as they want. So it kind of makes the competition a little bit harder, just because we all have had those days where you go into the audition and you just bomb it. Everyone has done that, and it just, I mean, it does make everyone else's like chances a little bit easier if someone's bombing it, but not that you want someone to do bad or not audition, but it just like helps your odds. So I think the video submissions are a little harder to stand out, just because everyone is kind of putting their best foot forward and like sending in their best take. And as for someone like me who is a perfectionist, I just never feel like it's good enough, and I just take hours to film like one 16-bar cut, which so it just takes up a lot more time and dealing with editing and all that stuff. So it is a lot more of a time-consuming process. I also think what's hard about video submissions is, especially when you have to email your submission to the casting team, it's very easy for it to get lost and sent to spam or junk email, especially if you don't have any little tips and tricks on how to make sure it's getting into someone's inbox, which I've learned some of those tips throughout college, and even while still using those tips, I still find that sometimes looking at the views for the video, it's not getting any views, so I'm really thinking it probably went to their spam and they're not even watching the video. So that just also comes with a little difficulty with the video submissions. Now, some casting teams in Orlando specifically, they use this site called Auditions Manager, which is basically a way to send in video submissions or set up appointments for auditions, which I really like it. You can sign up there for a time slot, you can put in your headshot, resume, all that things, as well as links to video submissions if they want to use the site for that as well. And that way you know your video is getting to them, and then they're gonna be viewing everything on that site. So it's a little more of a safer and secure process than emailing someone all of your files and everything. So that's just, if I were to do a video submission, I would want it to be through Auditions Manager. I would probably say video submissions are probably like my second favorite way of auditioning during a pandemic. And the third audition, which is my least favorite way of auditioning, is via virtual audition. Now, I've only done this once before, and it was not for a singing audition, it was for an actor's call. But I will say it is very interesting to do a virtual audition if you've never done one before. Virtual auditions are normally through Zoom, and it's amazing how much you can do with Zoom that is way beyond just a standard like face-to-face Zoom call. So basically how the audition went, I was given a time slot of when my audition was, and then they gave me the link to get to the, I think they called it a holding room. And basically I clicked on the link and it sent me to a holding room, or like a meeting room that was blank. There was no one on there, and there was a monitor that would message back and forth with you, just saying, checking you in and things like that, and basically saying, okay, you're up next, get ready to be sent into the breakout room, which is where all of the casting directors are. So then once it's your turn, you get sent into a breakout room where you're face-to-face via Zoom with the casting team, and then you can kind of do your audition from there, and when you're done, you just leave the room and then your audition is done. So it is very similar to a live audition, but I think what makes it difficult is just like any glitches that can happen with Zoom, or you kind of feel a little awkward just being, even when you're prepared and know that you're going next, just be thrown into the breakout room and making sure everything looks right and they can hear you, and your music, if you're singing, is at the right volume and things like that. So it's just a little awkward for me, which is why I don't personally prefer it. I mean, I have no problem doing it if I have to. It's just not my preferred method. But it is very impressive to me how much you can do with Zoom auditions wise, and you can record your Zoom sessions. So if they want to record all of the auditions, they can do that as well, and kind of have that for their files. Those are kind of the 3 ways I've seen in Orlando specifically that they have been utilizing auditions during the pandemic. But I think video submissions are definitely going to be sticking around for a while after the pandemic is done, either for auditions, for the entire audition in general, so that they don't have to bring everyone to a specific location, or just to have it as kind of like an initial type out where they'll kind of cut people from their video submissions and then ask a select handful of people to audition live and in person and do callback material. I think that's a very big possibility. Because we are in a more state where virtual auditions and video submissions are very necessary, I think it's going to be a very helpful part of an actor's toolbox to have a really good setup for self-tapes and anything using virtual submissions. So make sure you have nice lighting, a nice clear backdrop, whether that's a wall or a curtain you can put up, and some type of good filming material, whether that's a camera or even iPhones work really well for nice quality video submissions. Obviously using laptops and stuff like that. For Zoom, it's not always the best quality, but you can't really like add anything to a laptop than what it already has, so that's not really anything you can change. But I think it's definitely very helpful for people to get a good setup now, because it's something you're definitely going to be using in the future. But hopefully live auditions will be coming back soon, hopefully with vaccines and everything like that. We will be back to normal sooner rather than later. I definitely miss the chaos of like morning auditions and getting ready in the holding room and seeing people that you saw at every audition and just making connections and friends and all that fun stuff. I definitely miss it. But yeah, I think that's everything for today's video. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It helps me out so much. And you can follow me on Instagram at Graf100 to stay up to date on my latest content there. And I will see you guys next week, Thursday at 6 p.m. Bye!